June 1950. War breaks out in Korea. The fighting is bad, very bad. American generals want more. They want bigger bombs. They want to attack China. Some even want nuclear weapons. In Washington, President Harry Truman sits at his desk. He looks at maps, he reads reports, he hears the same thing over and over. Use the bomb, use it now. But Truman says no. Why? Because one wrong move could start World War III. One mistake could kill millions. What happens when your generals beg for war? What happens when you say no? This is the story of a man who had to choose. He could use the most powerful weapons ever made, or he could hold back and look weak. The whole world was watching. The year is 1945. World War II just ended. America won. Britain won, the Allies won, but the world is tired, so tired. Millions of people are dead. Cities lie in ruin. Families are broken. Everyone wants peace. They need peace. America has a new weapon now, the atomic bomb. It ended the war with Japan. 2 cities gone in 2 flashes of light. The world has never seen power like this. President Harry Truman made that choice. He dropped those bombs. He still thinks about it every single day. But now there's a new problem, a bigger problem. The Soviet Union wants to spread communism. They control Eastern Europe. They want more. China just fell to communism in 1949. The communists won. Now they control the biggest country in Asia. Americans are scared. They ask, where will it stop? Truman has a plan. He calls it containment. Stop communism from spreading. Don't let it grow. But don't start another world war either. It's a careful balance, a dangerous balance. Then comes June 1950. North Korea invades South Korea. The attack is sudden. The attack is brutal. North Korean tanks roll south. They push toward the capital. South Korean forces fall back. The United Nations meets. They vote. They call it aggression. They say, send troops. Stop this now. America leads the way. Truman sends soldiers. He sends planes. He sends ships. This is containment in action. But here's the thing. North Korea isn't alone. China backs them. The Soviet Union backs them. This small war could become a big war, a very big war. American troops land in Korea. They fight hard, but they're losing. The North Koreans are winning. They push the Americans into a tiny corner in the south. Then things change. General Douglas MacArthur plans a bold move. He lands troops behind enemy lines. The attack at Incheon. It works. The North Koreans have to retreat. Now the Americans are winning. They push north. They reach the border with China, the Yalu River. They're so close to total victory. But China is watching. China is worried. They don't want American troops on their border. They don't want enemies so close to home. In October 1950, China makes a choice. They send soldiers, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. They cross the Yalu River. They attack. The war explodes. American troops are caught by surprise. The Chinese come in waves. So many waves, the Americans fall back. They retreat south. The retreat is chaos. Men die in the cold. The winter is brutal. Now Truman faces a new reality. This isn't just a small war. This is America versus China. This could be America versus the Soviet Union. This could be World War III. The generals start talking. They want to hit back. They want to hit hard. Bomb their supply lines, they say. Cross into China, they say. Use whatever it takes, they say. Some whisper about the atomic bomb, that terrible weapon, that weapon that could end everything. Truman listens. He worries. He knows the stakes. If America attacks China directly, the Soviets might join in. If the Soviets join in, it's nuclear war. If it's nuclear war, millions die. Maybe everyone dies. This is the world in 1950. 5 years after one world war, standing on the edge of another. America is strong. America has the bomb. But strength without control is danger. Power without wisdom is chaos. Truman knows this. He learned it the hard way. He saw what the atomic bomb could do. He saw those cities disappear. He saw the dead. So many dead. Now he has to decide again. Use that power or hold it back. The pressure is building. The generals want action. The public wants victory. The politicians want strength. But Truman also knows something else. He knows that presidents control the military, not the other way around. Civilians make the final choice. That's how democracy works. This is the stage. This is where we begin. A president, a war, a choice that could change everything. The world is watching. History is watching. What will Truman do? The first months went well. Too well. After the Incheon landing, American forces pushed north. They liberated Seoul. They crossed into North Korea. They marched toward the Chinese border. Victory seemed close, so close you could taste it. General MacArthur was confident. He told Truman, "We'll be home by Christmas." He told the troops when the war is almost over. He believed it, but China was watching. Every step north made them more nervous. Every mile closer to their border made them more afraid. China sent warnings. They said, "Don't come closer. Stay away from our border. They said, we will not stand by. We will act. MacArthur didn't believe them. He thought they were bluffing. He kept pushing north. Therefore, China made their move. Late October 1950, Chinese soldiers crossed the Yalu River. Not hundreds, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. A massive force, a human wave. They hit the American and UN forces hard. The attack is overwhelming. The Americans aren't ready. They didn't expect this. They didn't expect so many. The retreat begins. It's cold, so cold. Winter in Korea is brutal. Men freeze, equipment fails, the Chinese keep coming. By December, the Americans are pushed back below the 38th parallel. All that progress? Gone. All those victories? Reversed. Now the war is different. Now it's not just North Korea, now it's China. A nation of 500 million people. A nation willing to send wave after wave of soldiers. The generals meet. They're angry. They're frustrated. They want to hit back, but how? The enemy has a safe zone. They train in China. They rest in China. They get supplies from China. Then they cross into Korea to fight. When things go bad, they cross back. They're safe. This isn't fair, the generals say. We can't win like this. They're right. Fighting with one hand tied is hard. The Chinese can strike from across the border, but Americans can't strike back. Those are the rules. Those are Truman's rules. MacArthur speaks up. He's the commander. He's in charge of the troops. He has a plan. A bold plan. Bomb the bridges, he says. Bomb their supply lines in China. Cut them off. Others go further. Bomb their cities. Bomb their factories. Make them pay. Some whisper even darker ideas. Use the atomic bomb. We have it. They don't. End this war now. The Joint Chiefs of Staff listen. They consider. Some agree, some worry. But the pressure is building. Meanwhile, intelligence reports come in. Soviet pilots are flying for China, not many, but some. Soviet planes in the sky, Soviet guns on the ground. The Soviet Union is involved, maybe not fully, but involved. This is the nightmare scenario. American versus China is bad, but America versus China and the Soviet Union? That's World War III. That's the nuclear war everyone fears. Truman reads the reports. He sees the danger. He knows what's at stake. But the pressure keeps building. Congress wants action. Newspapers want action. The public is angry. We're losing to communists, they say. Do something. MacArthur keeps pushing. He goes public. He criticizes Truman's limits. He says, let us win. Give us the tools. Let us fight without these chains. The Allies are nervous. Britain sends messages. France sends messages. Don't escalate, they beg. Don't drag us into a bigger war. We can't survive another world war. But Americans are dying in Korea every day. In the cold. In the hills, fighting an enemy that has a safe zone they can't touch. The pressure builds, the temperature rises, something has to give. MacArthur wants to bomb Manchuria, the region of China near Korea. He says, their bases are there, their supplies are there, let me hit them. The Pentagon studies the option. Could they win? Maybe. Would the Soviets join in? Maybe. Would it go nuclear? Nobody knows. That's the problem. Nobody knows. Once you cross that line, once you attack China directly, anything could happen. Everything could happen. Truman sits in the White House. He reads, he thinks, he worries. The generals want war. The public wants victory. His allies want caution. His enemies want weakness. What's the right choice? What's the safe choice? Is there a safe choice? The war grinds on. Men die. The line moves back and forth. Winter turns to spring. Still no solution. Still no victory. Just death and cold and fear. The pressure keeps building. The moment of decision is coming. Soon Truman will have to choose. Really choose. Will he unleash the full power of America, or will he hold back and risk everything anyway? Douglas MacArthur is a legend, a hero. He won battles in World War II. He accepted Japan's surrender. He rebuilt Japan after the war. Americans love him. He wears sunglasses. He smokes a pipe. He speaks with authority. When he talks, people listen. But now he's frustrated, very frustrated. Let me win. Let me do my job. He wants to bomb China. He wants to cross the Yalu. He wants total victory. Truman says no. Keep the war limited. Don't spread the fighting. Don't risk World War III. Therefore, MacArthur gets angry. He doesn't just disagree in private. He disagrees in public. He writes letters. He gives speeches. He tells reporters the president is making a mistake. This is a problem. A big problem. In America, the military answers to civilians. Generals don't make policy. Presidents do. That's the rule. That's the law. But MacArthur keeps pushing. He has support. Republicans in Congress back him. Newspapers print his ideas. The public listens. They think, maybe he's right. Maybe we need to hit harder. MacArthur sends a memo. He wants to blockade China's coast. He wants to bomb their cities. He wants to use Chinese nationalist troops from Taiwan. He even suggests the atomic bomb. Use it on military targets. Use it to win. The Joint Chiefs of Staff read his proposals. Some nod. Some shake their heads. They're divided. General Omar Bradley speaks up. He's cautious. He says, this could start the wrong war, in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong enemy. He means, why fight China when the real threat is the Soviet Union? Why waste American power in Asia when Europe matters more? But others disagree. They say, we can't look weak. We can't lose to communists. We have to win. The CIA sends reports. Soviet involvement is real. Soviet pilots fly MiG fighters. Soviet advisors help plan attacks. If America bombs China, will the Soviets defend them? Will it trigger their alliance? Nobody knows. It's a gamble, a deadly gamble. Truman meets with his advisors. They sit around tables, they argue, they debate. Maps cover the walls, reports pile up. The discussions go late into the night. Secretary of State Dean Acheson speaks. He says, limited war. That's our policy. Contain communism. Don't start World War III. Stay the course. Secretary of Defense George Marshall agrees. Marshall is a legend too. He planned D-Day. He rebuilt Europe. He knows war. He says, the atomic bomb isn't the answer. Not here, not now. But pressure comes from everywhere. Congress holds hearings. Senators demand answers. Why are we losing? Why can't we win? What's the president afraid of? The Republicans smell blood. Truman is a Democrat. They want to make him look weak. They praise MacArthur. They question Truman. They ask, who's really in charge? The newspapers pile on. Headlines scream, stalemate in Korea. American boys dying. Why can't we win? Public opinion shifts. People are tired. They want victory or they want out. They don't want this middle ground, this slow, grinding war with no end in sight. MacArthur writes more letters. He shares his views with a congressman. The congressman reads the letter on the floor of the House. MacArthur's words spread everywhere. He says, there is no substitute for victory. He criticizes Truman's strategy. He basically calls the president a coward. This is too much. Way too much. Truman reads the letter. His face goes red, his hands shake. No general talks about a president like this. No general undermines his commander-in-chief. Firing MacArthur? That's dangerous. The public loves him. The Republicans will attack. There will be hell to pay. Still, Truman knows the truth. Civilian control matters. The president decides, not the generals. That's how democracy works. That's how America works. Meanwhile, the war continued. Spring 1951. The fighting goes back and forth. Hills are captured. Hills are lost. Men die for ground that doesn't matter. The front line barely moves. Intelligence reports show China can keep fighting. They have millions of men. They can take huge losses and keep coming. America can't match that. Not in Korea, not this far from home. The military gives estimates. How many troops to win? How long would it take? The numbers are scary. Years of fighting, hundreds of thousands of troops, billions of dollars, and still no guarantee. Still the risk of Soviet involvement, still the risk of nuclear war. Truman's advisors present options. They lay them out. Escalate or negotiate, bomb China or seek peace. Go big or go home. Every option has problems. Every choice has risks. There's no clean answer. No easy path. But one thing is clear, the current path isn't working. Something has to change. MacArthur can't keep undermining the president. The public can't keep demanding the impossible. The war can't keep grinding on with no end in sight. A decision is coming. A big decision. Maybe several decisions about the war, about MacArthur, about America's future. Truman feels the weight. The pressure is crushing. Everyone wants something from him. Everyone has an opinion, but only one person decides. Only one person carries the burden. That person is Harry Truman, a man from Missouri, a man who never expected to be president, a man who now holds the fate of the world in his hand. The moment is here. The choice. Harry Truman was not supposed to be president. He was vice president, a backup. Then Roosevelt died. Suddenly Truman had the job. The biggest job in the world. He's not a general, he's not a scholar, he's a plain man. He ran a store, he served in World War I, he worked his way up in politics. He speaks plainly, he acts plainly, but he knows one thing very well, right from wrong, duty from power, service from ego. Now he sits in the Oval Office. Reports cover his desk, maps hang on the walls. Korea China, the Soviet Union, lines and arrows showing troops and battles and danger. He thinks about the choice, really thinks about it. Option 1. Give MacArthur what he wants. Bomb China, cross the Yalu, use every weapon, maybe even the atomic bomb. Go for total victory. What happens then? Maybe America wins, maybe China backs down, maybe the war ends, but maybe China doesn't back down. Maybe the Soviet Union joins in. They have a treaty with China. They might have to help. Then it's World War III, then it's nuclear war, then millions die, maybe hundreds of millions. Is victory in Korea worth that risk? Is saving South Korea worth destroying the world? Truman knows the answer. No. Nothing is worth that. He saw the atomic bomb's power. He ordered it used on Japan. He still sees those cities in his mind. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, gone in seconds. Tens of thousands dead. More dying slowly from radiation, using it again. In Asia again, against a country backed by the Soviet Union. That's madness. That's suicide. Option 2. Keep the war limited. Fight only in Korea. Don't bomb China. Don't cross the border. Take the criticism. Accept the stalemate. Look for a way to end this without destroying everything. What happens then? The war drags on. More Americans die. The public gets angrier. The Republicans attack harder. History might judge him as weak, as a president who couldn't win, but the world survived. That mattered. The world surviving mattered most. Truman thinks about MacArthur. The general is brilliant. He's brave. He wins battles. But he doesn't see the whole picture. He sees Korea. He sees victory and defeat. He sees military solutions. He doesn't see Moscow. He doesn't see nuclear weapons spreading. He doesn't see the long game, the Cold War game. The game where you have to be strong, but also smart. Powerful, but also careful. Truman understands something MacArthur doesn't. Sometimes the strongest choice is to hold back. Sometimes winning means not fighting. Sometimes the bravest thing is to say no when everyone screams yes. He thinks about civilian control, about democracy, about the Constitution. The president commands the military, not the other way around. If generals can ignore presidents, what does that mean? What kind of country is that? That's not America. That can't be America. Truman makes his decision. Actually, he makes two decisions. Two choices that will change everything. Decision 1. The war stays limited. No bombing China, no nuclear weapons, no escalation. Fight in Korea. Defend South Korea. But don't start World War III. Don't risk everything for one peninsula. This is hard. So hard. Men will keep dying. The public will keep complaining. The critics will keep attacking. But it's right. He knows it's right. Decision 2. MacArthur has to go. He can't keep undermining the president. He can't keep making policy in public. He can't keep ignoring orders. He has to be relieved. Fired. This is even harder. MacArthur is beloved. Firing him will cause a storm. A political storm. A public storm. But it has to be done. Democracy requires it. Civilian control requires it. Truman calls his advisors. He tells them. They nod. Some look worried. They know what's coming. They know the price. Do it, Truman says. It has to be done. He thinks about history, about how this will look. Will people understand? Will they see that he saved the world? Or will they just see a president who fired a hero? He doesn't know. He can't know. But he has to do it anyway. That's leadership. That's duty. The decision is made, the order is written, MacArthur will be relieved of command, the war will stay limited, the nuclear weapons will stay unused. Truman sits back. He feels tired, so tired. The weight is almost too much, but he carries it. That's his job. That's what presidents do. Outside, the world keeps turning. In Korea, men keep fighting. In China, leaders keep watching. In Moscow, Stalin keeps planning. But in Washington, one man just made a choice. A choice to save millions. A choice to risk his reputation for the world's survival. History will judge whether he was right. But in this moment, Truman knows one thing. He did what he believed was right. He chose restraint over revenge, peace over power, wisdom over war. Now comes the hard part. Now comes the fallout. April 11, 1951. The announcement comes. President Truman relieves General Douglas MacArthur of command. Effective immediately. The news hits like a bomb, like an actual bomb. Americans can't believe it. Their hero fired. The general who won the Pacific. The general who saved Japan. Gone? The reaction is instant. The reaction is fury. Telegrams flood the White House, thousands of them. They call Truman a traitor, they call him a coward. They use words we can't repeat. The anger is real, the anger is hot. Congress explodes, Republicans demand investigations. They call Truman weak, they call him incompetent. Some even call for his impeachment. They want him removed from office. MacArthur returns to America. He hasn't been home in years, not since World War II. He lands in San Francisco. Crowds gather, massive crowds. They cheer, they wave flags, they treat him like a king. He travels to Washington. The crowds grow. People line the streets. They hold signs. Welcome home, MacArthur. We love you. Truman must go. Congress invites MacArthur to speak. Joint session, both the House and Senate. Cameras everywhere. The whole nation watches. MacArthur walks in. The room stands. They clap. They cheer. It goes on and on. Minutes of applause. He stands there, tall, proud, a legend. He speaks. His voice is strong. His words are powerful. He defends his strategy. He questions Truman's policy. He talks about honor, about duty, about victory. He ends with famous words. Old soldiers never die. They just fade away. His voice cracks. The emotion is real, or seems real. The room erupts. Standing ovation, crying, cheering. Some congressmen have tears running down their faces. It's a moment, a huge moment. Truman watches on TV. He sits quietly. His face shows nothing. But inside, he's calm. He knows he did the right thing. Public opinion doesn't change that. Crowds don't change that. But the political damage is real. Truman's approval rating drops. Way down. One poll shows only 23% approval. That's terrible. That's the worst of his presidency. He takes the hits. He doesn't back down. He explains his choice. I fired him because he wouldn't respect the authority of the president. Simple, clear, true. Some people listen, some people understand, but many don't. Many just see a president who fired a hero, who wouldn't let America win, who tied the hands of the military. Meanwhile, back in Korea, the war continues. General Matthew Ridgway takes command. He's good, very good. He stabilizes the lines, he pushes back, but he follows Truman's rules. Limited war, no escalation, no bombing China. And something interesting happens. It worked. Not perfectly, not completely, but it works. The Chinese attacks slow down. The front line stabilizes. The war becomes a stalemate. Not pretty, but survivable. Months pass, then years. The war drags on, but it doesn't become World War III. Nuclear weapons stay unused. The Soviet Union stays on the sidelines, mostly. Finally, in 1953, the fighting stops. An armistice. Not a victory, not a defeat, a draw. Korea splits at the 38th parallel, almost exactly where it started. Two countries, north and south. That border still exists today. America didn't get total victory, but America didn't get total war either. Millions of lives were saved. Nuclear war was avoided. The world survived. Looking back, historians see something important. Truman was right. The risks were real. Bombing China could have triggered World War III. The Soviet Union had nuclear weapons by then. A nuclear exchange could have destroyed civilization. But at the time, most people just saw failure. They saw a war without victory, a general fired, a president who looked weak. Truman didn't run for president again. He went home to Missouri. He lived a quiet life. He wrote his memoirs. He built a library. He walked around his town. Normal, simple. Years later, historians started to see things differently. They read the documents. They studied the risks. They realized Truman made the hard choice, the right choice, the choice that saved millions. The Constitution survived too. Civilian control held. A president fired a general who wouldn't follow orders. Democracy worked. The military stayed under civilian command. MacArthur did fade away. He lived in New York. He gave some speeches, but his moment passed. History moved on. His way of thinking became old, outdated, dangerous. Truman's way, limited war, careful strategy, nuclear restraint, that became the model. That's how America fought the Cold War. That's how the world avoided nuclear destruction. The fallout from firing MacArthur was real. The political damage was severe. Truman paid a heavy price, but he was willing to pay it. For principle, for the Constitution, for the world. That's leadership. Real leadership. Not doing what's popular, doing what's right, even when it cost you everything. The storm passed, eventually, but the lesson remained. And the world kept turning, saved by a choice, a hard choice, a necessary choice. Let's imagine a different story. Let's imagine Truman said, yes, bomb China, he tells MacArthur, use everything we have, win this war. The bombers take off. They cross into China, they drop their loads, bridges explode, factories burn, supply lines break, cities shake. China responds, they send more troops, many more. 1 million soldiers, 2 million. They flood into Korea, they accept huge losses, they keep coming. The Soviet Union watches, they have a treaty with China, a mutual defense treaty. If China is attacked, they're supposed to help. Do they? Maybe. Maybe not. But the pressure is huge. The pressure to act. Soviet leaders debate. Stalin makes a choice. Help China, he says. Send planes, send weapons, send advisors, maybe even send troops. The risk grows, the danger multiplies. America bombs more targets. Deeper into China, closer to the Soviet border. A mistake happens. It always does in war. A bomb hits a Soviet train. Soviet soldiers die. Now what? Does Stalin ignore it? Or does he respond? The pressure builds. The temperature rises. Someone makes a bad choice. Someone always does. A Soviet plane shoots down an American bomber. An American plane shoots down a Soviet plane. Suddenly, it's not just China. It's the Soviet Union too. It's World War III, and both sides have nuclear weapons now. The Soviets tested their first bomb in 1949. They don't have many, but they have some. Enough to destroy cities, enough to kill millions. The war spreads. Fighting in Korea, fighting in China, maybe fighting in Europe. The Soviets push into West Germany. NATO responds. The whole world is at war. Then someone uses the atomic bomb. Maybe America first, maybe the Soviets. Does it matter who? The result is the same. Nuclear fire, cities destroyed, millions dead. The other side responds. More nuclear weapons, more cities. The destruction spreads. Moscow, New York, London, Paris, gone. Just gone. Radiation spreads. Fallout covers continents. People die far from the bombs. They die from poison in the air, in the water, in the food. The death toll climbs. 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, maybe more. Civilization collapses, governments fall, chaos spreads, the world enters a dark age, a nuclear dark age. Recovery takes decades, maybe centuries. Is that crazy? Is that impossible? No, that's exactly what could have happened. That's what the experts warned about. That's what kept Truman up at night. He saw the path. He saw where MacArthur's strategy led. Escalation, confrontation, nuclear war, the end of everything. He said no. He chose restraint. He chose limits. He chose to save the world even if it made him look weak, even if it cost him everything politically. That choice mattered. That choice changed history, not by what happened, by what didn't happen, by the war that never came, by the bombs that never fell, by the millions who lived instead of died. After Korea, American military strategies changed. The idea of limited war took hold. Fight when you must, but keep it contained. Don't let every conflict become World War III. Don't risk nuclear war unless absolutely necessary. This became the pattern. Vietnam? Limited war. No invasion of North Vietnam. No bombing of China. Keep it contained. It didn't work perfectly. Nothing does. But the world survived. The Cold War lasted 40 more years. Many crises, many close calls. Berlin, Cuba, the Middle East. But no World War III, no nuclear war. Limited conflicts. Careful choices. The world survived. Why? Because leaders remembered Korea. They remembered Truman's choice. They remembered what restraint looked like, what wisdom looked like. They learned from his example. Civilian control mattered too. After MacArthur, no general challenged a president like that again. The military stayed under civilian command. Democracy held. The Constitution worked. This matters today, still, right now. Countries have nuclear weapons, thousands of them. If leaders lose control, if military commanders make choices without civilian approval, disaster, absolute disaster. The lesson is clear. Democracies need civilians to control the military. Presidents make the final choices, not generals, not admirals, presidents, elected leaders, people accountable to the public. Truman wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. But in this moment, in this crisis, he got it right. He saw the danger. He understood the stakes. He made the hard choice. Think about courage. Real courage, not battlefield courage, not physical bravery, moral courage. The courage to do the right thing when everyone says you're wrong, when you'll pay a heavy price, when history might judge you harshly. That's what Truman showed. He knew firing MacArthur would hurt him. He knew keeping the war limited would frustrate people. He did it anyway, because it was right, because it was necessary, because the world mattered more than his reputation. We need leaders like that today, tomorrow, always. Leaders who can say no, who can resist pressure, who can see beyond the moment, who can think about consequences, about risk, about what really matters. The mightiest decision is sometimes the one not taken. The strongest action is sometimes restraint. The bravest choice is sometimes to hold back when everyone wants you to strike. Harry Truman understood that. A plain man from Missouri, a failed store owner, an accidental president, he understood what mattered most. Not victory, not reputation, not power, survival, peace, the future. He saved the world by choosing not to destroy it. He won by refusing to fight the way everyone wanted. He showed strength by showing restraint. That's his legacy. That's what we remember. Not the political fights, not the low approval ratings, not the criticism. We remember the choice, the right choice, the choice that let the world continue. Walk through any city today, any city anywhere, millions of people living their lives, working, loving, raising children, building futures. They exist because of choices like Truman's, because someone said no, because someone chose wisely. That's the story. That's what matters. A president faced with impossible pressure, everyone demanding action, everyone pushing for war, and he said no. He held the line. He saved us all. The world didn't end in 1950, not because of luck, because of choice, because of wisdom, because of restraint. Remember that. Remember Truman. Remember that the hardest choice is sometimes the right choice. That true strength includes knowing when not to act. That real leadership means protecting the future, even when it costs you everything in the present. The world survived. We're here because of it. That's the legacy. That's the lesson. That's the story of the decision that saved the world.